64, 65, I would have been probably playing with the show band at that stage. It was called the Impact Show Band, and it was also known as the Fontana Show Band. And also masqueraded as a few other people.
Well, like your influences since the very beginning have been in blues and rock. So why did you play in a show band?
Well, I started at school. I tried to get a little rock band together, but there wasn't a youngster who could play the bass guitar around. So we did 1 or 2 gigs with just 2 guitars and drums, and that was sort of ventures in rock and roll material, Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
So really, out of frustration, just to play regularly, I just joined a show band. I was only 14 or 15, so and it was a chance to play through an AC-30 Vox, which I thought was, the biggest thing that could happen to you. And then it was one of those show bands where you could play sort of 50% rock and roll anyway, and then the usual mixture of rock and pop, or country and western rather. At that age I was still learning, so I mean a couple of years in a show band didn't really offend me, but eventually it just got too frustrating and I wanted to do the real thing,
And that's where Eric and Norman came in.
I went to Germany with 2 other guys as a 3-piece, and we did a gig as the Fender Men.
It's in the Star Club in Hamburg.
No, this was called the Big Apple Club, and that was the first sort of group situation, but then it was literally for that one spell, and then I returned to Cork, at which point Eric and Norman were splitting up their group, which was called the Axles, and we got together, and that was Taste, really. That was 65.
You've been commuting from Ireland to Hamburg, say, and then London became the place to go to, like, in the place that you finally made your name, let's say. Mm. So, like, what was it like going to London at the very beginning? Did you ever feel it wasn't worth it at all? Did you ever feel frustrated about the whole thing, that it was never going to happen?
Well, it was really bleak then. I mean, you have to remember the fact that Van Morrison and them, okay, they were an Irish group and had a hit record and so on, but they split up very early on, and the channels to get gigs in England were very, very hard, and so we had a lot of waiting around, and that's why we went to Germany, really, because you had the clubs there who would take groups, and but then you had to work sort of ridiculously long hours, but then for that you got to play what you wanted. We just played rhythm and blues and rock and roll and anything we could play all night, and it was a better grounding really than doing 45 minutes in an English club.
Yeah.
But obviously at that time London was the mecca of music, so had to do it that way,
Well, around that time you played with one of my favourite bands. You played on a tour with Blind Faith.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And you also, could I say that the most important part of your career around that time was the Isle of Wight Festival, which went down a bomb?
Yeah.
Like, was that as good as people say it was? I wasn't there.
Just the atmosphere, the sound, the whole
everything.
Well, it really was.
And
it was special, yeah.
And what happened afterwards as regards, right, okay, Rory Gallagher is now hot property. Did it happen after the Isle of Wight?
The band was very popular really on the continent and in Britain and so on. I think it's only that the press only woke up to the fact that we weren't just some sort of fluke group playing around the clubs, and we just went on the Isle of Wight, and the audience just took off, and of course it frustrated them then when they found out that we were splitting up, just as the press was sort of really discovering us, so to speak. But then the Blind Faith tour, that was 1970, I think. We did that one and only tour they did. We did about 6 weeks in the States, so that was a great break for us. But
was that the first time you played in the States?
It was, yeah. But that was a scream, because Clapton and Winwood and all those, they decided to do the tour a la Glenn Miller, get back in the Greyhound bus and so on, because the cream and traffic on the earlier tours had gone in jets and all that. But so we had to go along with that idea with Delaney and Bonnie and friends, Blind Faith and ourselves in the one bus, and covering long journeys and so on. And I mean, for us, we had the very first gig we did was Philadelphia in the Spectrum there, and we stepped onto the stage and the stage started revolving, and the promoter didn't tell us, and there we are playing in front of 20,000 people. It was more people than we'd ever seen.
The stage is moving.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this has got to be sort of I don't know, a bad trip or whatever they called it. So but it was a good experience, but we had more fun on tours after that, because we were more in control of our own scene.